In the last video, we finished listening to the Vodi Bakum sermon, at least as far as my JW friend would tolerate. She was clearly not happy at all with what she heard. But instead of actually dealing with anything he said in the sermon, she immediately deflected to the standard broad brush accusations that all people other than JWs basically believe the same things. She's done this countless times already in our previous conversations whenever she doesn't want to deal with a subject. I decided I needed to call her out on this nonsense because it's really just a deflection via logical fallacy. She just can't deal with what I believe directly because it doesn't fit with what the Watchtower keeps telling her that I believe. But because she will never admit when she's wrong or that the Watchtower is wrong, she instead went full steam ahead into attacking the deity of Jesus and the doctrine of the Trinity. I know it is sad and even frustrating to hear her railing against everything and anything she can think of, but we need to remember that the sermon clearly upset her. So, in my mind, she's like a wounded wild animal trapped in a cage desperately trying to fight her way out. So while you may be tempted to get angry with her, I want to recommend praying for her instead. What we hear her doing here is exactly what happens when people suffer such tremendous spiritual abuse from cult leaders. Eventually, as she continues to toss out attacks on various groups, we get into knowing an organization or religion by its fruit, which gave me the opportunity to bring up the many court cases against the Watchtower because of the way that they protect pedophiles and belittle the victims. Maybe this wasn't the best time to bring it up since she was already so riled up. But she did specifically bring up knowing them by their fruit, so I really couldn't resist showing that hypocrisy.
All religions who basically believe in the same thing.
So,
they believe in either in a dual God or a triple God. They believe the soul is immortal. They believe that a lot believe that you're going to burn in hell, but a lot believe that you're going to go to heaven. And so that the world is, they feel is going to go on the way it is, and heaven is going to be the perfect place to go. This is just a training ground, and basically these are all falsehoods. These are not what the Bible teaches.
So you just made a huge, massive, broad brush statement about a whole lot of people with a whole lot of different beliefs and tried to group them all together. Do you think that's very useful?
Well, I've read a lot of literature about the faiths of different people because we as Jehovah's Witnesses have to know who we're talking to, and basically, yes, even non-Christian religions believe that the soul is immortal.
Again, that's another broad brush, and that has nothing to do with me as a Christian. You keep trying to group me in with a lot of people of a lot of different religious beliefs, and I don't see.
Well, tell me, do you believe the soul is immortal?
I've told you many times what I believe, but you keep going on about all these different things. I mean, even like, do you believe that I think that the end of the world is a battle between God and Satan, or a battle between good and bad, or
Well, you see, basically, of course, you can't. Everybody doesn't believe exactly the same thing,
right.
But the gist of what I'm saying is in all faith, is in all Christian faiths, and those basic tenets are not in the Bible.
Sure, again, as long as you broad brush, you can say that.
Swing off and then believe a little differently, and a little bit like, I mean, I've talked to many born again people, and they'll have different concepts from what you believe in.
So why would you group me in with people of other beliefs then? You just assume we're all the same.
I'm not grouping. I'm not. You think I'm attacking you? I'm not.
No, I'm just.
I'm
my concern is that you're trying to put me into a larger group with a lot of different people, and therefore we can't ever deal specifically with what I believe versus what you believe, because you group me in with all these other things. Like, you keep going on about 3 gods and all those sorts of things, and but none of that represents me.
3 persons and 1 God, same thing?
No, it's not the same thing. I've told you that. We've been through that so many times.
the Catholic tenet in the Catholic Encyclopedia.
Hang on, am I Catholic?
Refer to three persons in one God.
Yeah, but
so they believe the same thing you do.
As far as the Trinity goes, yes, we agree on the Trinity, but there are many other areas where we disagree. So much so that we are two different religions. Can you see the difference there?
But it's not talk about the Trinity. The Gospels continually speak of Jesus as being God's Son, and he listens to God. He obeys God. He prays to God. He's an entity on his own. He's the Son of God.
He's a person, absolutely. But the
and
Bible refers to. We've been through this many times. I don't want to get trapped in that one again. We've been through that. The Bible calls God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit.
That's the thing that's one of the basics that differ. And if we're not going to agree on that, well, then I guess really we're not ever going to then agree on anything, because true faith has to identify Jehovah God as a sole God that is superior and was forever. He had no beginning, no end. Jesus had a beginning,
which the Bible doesn't say. We've been over that too.
Yeah, the Bible does say.
No, it never says Jesus has a beginning. And it also never says he's Michael anywhere, does it?
Sure, it talks about Michael in Revelation, and it talks about Michael in Daniel.
It talks about Michael and it talks about Jesus in Revelation. Two different people.
But you have to put your puzzle together, as they say.
But that's the thing. The Bible isn't a puzzle.
But if basic, you have to have a common ground in order to say, well, okay, we agree with this and we disagree with that. But we just don't have a common ground, and it's not getting us anywhere, really.
Well, I was going to suggest, I don't know if you wanted to another time use one of your Watchtower talks and we could go through that, but that's up to you if you don't want to do that.
No, there's no point in that, because you see, that's what you're doing is you're not looking to say, well, yes, that's in the Bible or that. You're looking at it to knock it apart with no basis in Bible scripture.
Well, that's quite an accusation.
It's true, because when I point out scripture that contradicts what you're saying, you totally ignore it.
No, that's what you do when I point out scripture. See how we can have that back and forth.
I give you another scripture that clarifies that point.
No, you make it a puzzle to try and cut pieces out and put them together, and that's very. I know that's what the Watchtower does, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, I think there's no point in this. As I say, it's just a fruitless effort, I think,
That talk kind of upset you?
No, it doesn't upset me, but I was disappointed in it because, as I say, he ranted and raved and talked his own, elaborated on things that he didn't have to elaborate on, to say a child could read that and get what he got out of that,
I hope at very least what you could take away from it is when you hear or you read that Christians believe this and that and whatever, think back to what he said and see if that agrees with what he said, because that's a Christian.
I agreed with what he said because he didn't say anything that wasn't in the scripture.
Right. He said, but I'm saying what he taught, what he was saying there, is not what the Watchtower says that Christians believe, right?
Say that again? I couldn't quite get what you're saying.
Okay, what he was teaching, I know you go with what the Watchtower says that we as Christians believe, or Christendom, or whatever word you want to use, same thing. But what he said there, I gave you an example of a Christian teacher speaking and reading from the scripture and teaching from the scripture, and that is contrary. What he said there is contrary to what the Watchtower says that we believe. So that was just an example.
The Watchtower doesn't. I've never had any. The Watchtower has never reference of what any particular religion believes, because
sure they do.
as
I mean, I've read that.
Basically, we don't we don't badmouth any other religion. That they have their own faith, that's for sure. But we want people to see what's in the Bible.
Well, here's the problem with that, though, is that, as you know, I do like to read jw.org, and I've read them say a lot of very slanderous, attacking things about Christians, about Catholics, and other groups. So that's contrary to what I've seen from them.
Well, they're not picking on the Catholic. They're picking on the what they're teaching.
Oh no, they pick on the Catholics. They pick on them for their pedophilia. They pick on them for just all kinds of
the
different
Bible
things.
Speaks about that's how you identify who you should believe is by their fruits.
Yeah, but the thing is,
talked about that.
But it's here's the thing though. The Catholic Church has a problem with pedophilia. Yeah, there's a huge structural problem there that allows children to be preyed upon. But the Watchtower has been proven to have the exact same problem with the way they run things. I'm not saying that all JWs are pedophiles or anything like that, but it's been known there's court cases all over the world right now, which we've talked about. So it's a problem in the Watchtower too. So if that's, and I agree with it that it's a horrible thing in the Catholic Church, but I think it's also a horrible thing in any organization that does that and that supports it and protects it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But and you'll notice that, as I say, that we do not condone. We disfellowship any individual that is not going according to biblical rules.
Well, all the studies in the court cases that have come about are showing quite the opposite. They actually just basically tell the people, they just say, leave it in Jehovah's hands and he'll deal with it, and then they let those people continue on serving in the congregation.
You're making an assumption
that
is not true.
I'm talking about recorded court cases all over the world, especially Australia, but also in the States. In Canada, there's a huge case going on right now, and it's rampant. There's even one guy who just went to jail recently in the States who's like I think he's in his 80s now. He had a long career going from kingdom hall to kingdom hall, abusing children, and then he finally went to jail towards the end of his life.
And you hear that on the news?
Yeah.
You hear that on the news?
Sure, multiple news sites. Yeah, oh yeah, it's all recorded. You can even go straight to the lawyers. You can go to government organizations and look that up. It's all out there in the public because the public needs to know about pedophiles, right? So, yeah, and that's the thing. That's why even I was reading last year, the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses are being called to court to deal with that. They all have to testify now because they haven't changed their rules in order to protect the children. So
yeah, you see,
But I guess I didn't probably put that on their website.
I know you. I know you have strong faith in your belief, and I think we should just leave it at that. I think we should not continue this conversation. This is not getting us anywhere. We've talked for I think about 2 years, and we haven't made any haven't reached any common ground at all.
Okay.
And I think, let's face it, that we'll never reach a common ground, and I think it's pointless.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, because I've said it before. I love you. I care about you. I love our conversations, and I don't expect us to come to a point of having to be totally in agreement on things. I think it's great. I think it's interesting, and I've learned so much about you.
And I think that's just the problem. You hit the nail on the head there, because a truth is a truth. Like a simple fact, like 1 and 1 is 2. It's not 3 or 5 or 10. It's two. And when something is pointed out so physically that you have one object and another object, so you have two objects. And the Bible truth is the same way. We should, by really delving into Bible scripture, we should really come up with a consensus. And that's what the Bible students did in the early days. There was very many different religions that got together, individuals that had different faiths. And they got together and they came together with a consensus. And that's what conversation is about on a scriptural level, to reach a consensus. And then if I think we've reached a point where we're not going to reach a consensus, and I think there's no point in talking about it anymore, you know.
Okay.
Well. I'm not upset about it. You're a nice person to talk to. That's not the point. But when it comes to biblical things, I think we should just avoid it.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, because I care about you as a person, and that's why I really like talking to you.
That's exactly altogether different. I care about you as a person, but on a religious basis, we're not going to we're not going to come up with a consensus.
So the consensus matters more than I do?
Pardon me?
The consensus matters more than I do? Like you'd rather not talk to me?
That's what the conversation is about. To find out, we should love God more than we love our individual selves and our individual and neighbors and husbands and wives and everything.
But God is not consensus.
I want to defend the God of the Bible, and you have a different view of the God of the Bible. So,
okay.
And we're not, and we as I say, we've talked for 2 years, and it's gotten us nowhere really. So,
Okay, so unless I were to come around to your beliefs, then we can't talk. Is that?
Well, we can. It's not a matter of not talking. I'd like to find out how you're doing. I'm concerned about your health, and I'd like to know that down the road you're functioning and you're coping with your illness, because your illness is an illness that's not ever going to be cured.
Mm-hmm.
And so physically, as a person, sure, I'm interested in you.
Okay, so did you want to still talk, but just not talk about religious things then, or?
Yeah, I'd like to know how you're doing. Sure,
okay. Cool. That would be good.
I'm not cutting us off. You're a friend,
Mm-hmm.
That's part of and a friend is a friend. But as I say, I want to defend my God in the way that the Bible speaks of Him.
Okay. So, okay, well then let's just, that's okay with me. If you don't want to talk about that anymore, then we can just catch up and see how each other's feeling, and,
Mm-hmm.
This conversation still went on for quite some time after this, believe it or not. We'll pick up right here next time as she finally decided to try and discuss the sermon we had just listened to.